guys, welcome to season 2 of the Citizen Sit Down. My name's Brie, I'm the creative pastor here at Citizen, and we are so excited that we have finally launched services. So hopefully you joined us week 1, whether that was Tuesday night in person or Sunday morning online. We're so grateful that you could join us, and this podcast is basically diving you deeper into what we speak about on Sundays. So Ryan and I are just going to be chatting through our vision, our mission, and our culture. So hopefully if you joined us, you will have got one of these booklets for our This Is Us series. If you haven't got one already, then you can order one from the shop on our website for free, and it will be, coming in the post to you. But hope you enjoy week 1 of the podcast. How's it going?
It's good, really good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm excited that we've launched services. Finally.
Oh, come on. It's been a very long time coming. It's been I think we were meant to have this building finished in September. We didn't start the work till I think October. So it's been a long time coming, but we're here. Services have launched. Yeah. People have gathered safely and at a 2 meter distance.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, no one got COVID. So it's been great.
Really good.
Massive wins all around.
Amazing. So this week, you spoke to us about our mission and our vision as a church. And so we just want to dive into that a little bit deeper. And so our mission is to break, to breach, to bring, to build. So to break stereotypes, to bring people home, to breach loneliness, and to build God's kingdom.
Yeah,
whatever order you'd like it. But the first question, kind of diving into to break stereotypes, I just wondered, what are some of the stereotypes that you are wanting us as a church to begin to break?
Yeah, I think. I didn't grow up going to church, as I said in the service, and I think for me, when I was first invited to church, I had no idea what to expect, and what I didn't expect was that it would be something I liked, or that it would be somewhere where I felt at home, or I think I kind of had that misconception, or that preconception anyway, of the big Victorian building. It's going to be cold. It's going to be full of people who are my grandparents' age, no one my age. I think I assumed there would be Nescafe coffee on offer only, rich tea biscuits. That's honestly my perception of church. It's definitely what I've seen, or how I've seen the church portrayed on telly. In Gavin and Stacey, that scene where they go to have their bands read, and it's in this old church, and it's basically just backs up that perception. And so I think when I ended up going to church and having that perception change, that is what got me keep going back. That's why I kept going back, because it was just why do people not know that church is actually like this?
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard Hillsong United, I was like, what? This is Christian. What? They got electric guitars. What? And I think that the truth is, I think the church just has a PR problem, and that people think that the church is something that is irrelevant, that it's something unrelatable, which I think is bonkers. I've never really said bonkers before, but I think it is bonkers because Jesus came, as I said, to be Emmanuel, to be God with us. He came to relate to us, yet for some reason the church is something people don't feel like they can relate to anymore.
Yeah.
And I just think that people need to know that that's not what it is. That's not what it's like. That's not what it's about. And so when I say we want to change or break the stereotype, it's not necessarily one stereotype, but more, I think it's about we want to enable people to feel like they belong here, that they can belong before they belong whatever they believe.
Yeah.
And that they don't think that church is a place where they're going to be judged. They don't think that church is somewhere that is going to be full of people that they can't relate to. That, there's another perception as well. I think when I started going to church as well, my friends would say, does that mean you're not going to drink anymore? And I think actually at the time, I thought that's what it meant. It meant that I had to give up loads of things and behave a certain way and live a certain lifestyle, which isn't what it's about. It's about a relationship with Jesus, and it's about freedom, not restraint. And I think that so often it's the restraint part that people see and focus on. And so I think so many people have this perception that when they come to church, or if they engaged in Christianity, if they form the relationship with Jesus, then it means they've got to give up everything they love. And that is just not true. And I think that's what we need to change. That's the stereotype. That's the perception, is people need to know that actually Jesus said, I've come to give you life and life to the full. And so actually there is freedom in knowing him, not restraint. And that's the main stereotype that we want to change. We want, Jesus' first miracle was turning water to wine. Like, I love saying, I know I say this a lot, but, he kept the party going, yet for some reason the church has a reputation for being boring. Now, if Jesus was at your party, you would not be bored. And so that's what people need to know. So that's why, as a church, we're committed to being the biggest and best party in town, because Jesus taught us how to party. And but
yeah, I think it's interesting. I think maybe not necessarily easy, but I think once people are in the building, like, we're quite trendy, we've got we've got a cool connect, we've got merch, we've got, the music's loud. There's a lot of things that even just coming into the building would break stereotypes. But I think it's like asking the question, well, how do we get those people in? And something you said this week was, I'll do anything short of sin to get people in. Which is, I mean, it's great, but like, how do we then ground ourselves and stop ourselves from, like, what's too far? How do we know, I'm going to go out of my way to prove that I can drink too, but without, falling into, old habits or like into temptation of those things?
No, it's good. It's a good question. I think it's hard as well. I think because like I said, when I started going to church, I did stop drinking. I was the guy at the party not drinking. I had sugar-free Red Bulls when I went clubbing, and I was the designated driver. And I think I actually helped back up that perception that it meant sorting this out. But I think actually for me, I used to think you had to drink to have fun. And so when I stopped drinking, and actually I found myself, I'd have a worse hangover than my friends from the Red Bull that I'd have all night. I just wouldn't be able to sleep all night with all the caffeine. But I think what I found is that actually after doing that, I could then come back to enjoying a social drink and doing that. But I think more what we want to show people is that actually Jesus will change your life. I can't change your life. Coming to church actually in itself isn't going to do much. Encountering the Holy Spirit will change everything. And so I think one thing that I really believe is that sanctification is a process. And when you come here, firstly, we want you to belong before you believe. And so it's that sense of, you might not be a Christian, but we want you to find a home here. And through being here, I believe that the Holy Spirit will work in your life, and you'll get introduced to the Holy Spirit, and maybe you'll do Alpha. And that's what I believe will change your life. And if there is anything there to address, I believe the Holy Spirit will do that. I think, you've got to connect before you correct. I can't, in terms of what people's lifestyles and stuff, I don't believe I have any right to tell someone how to live. But I think it's also important that, we're going to have a bar here, and on a Sunday night there's going to be some beers available. But at the same time, we want to run the recovery course, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to, I spoke last night, alcohol-related deaths are at an all-time high, so we're not trying to promote that in any way. We're not. But I do believe, I believe having a social drink with someone is great, but then going home and drinking loads on your own isn't. And I think it's once again, it's trying to build community into that. And when I say I'll do anything short of sin to get people in, it's I would do anything to enable someone to encounter Jesus. And that looks like, at the end of our evening service, we're going to have Papa John's pizza. We're going to have a bar. Because it shows people that coming into the church isn't going to bring more limitations on your life, but it is going to bring you freedom. And I'm just going to pray like mad that the Holy Spirit that they'll encounter the Holy Spirit, that they'll come on Alpha, and that if there is anything that the Spirit wants to convict in them, then He will. But
yeah, nice. I think kind of just like linking to that and moving on to our second point of bringing people home. You know, like what does home actually look like? Because it's all very well being this like warm, fuzzy building, but like what does it actually look like for people to feel as comfortable in our church building, or not even within the building, but with people in our community as they do at home?
Yeah, it's I remember this guy actually I used to work at a church in Brighton, and I remember we had a student who used to come in his dressing gown, so he definitely felt at home. And but that's not quite what I'm talking about when we want people to feel at home. I think it's that, like I said, for so many people, whether they're students, whether anyone, you know, in a city like Cardiff, where people come for jobs, where graduates move, where you know, such a sense of displacement, because, you know, I think I said I moved home. I left home when I was 19, and in the last 12 years, I've lived in 13 different houses. And so that sense of home is no longer attached to my house. But when I was in London, when I was at uni, I got involved in a church there called Holy Trinity Brompton, and it was the first church I really felt I belonged to. And I mean, I was there all the time. I loved it. I had really good friends there. I had people who I could be honest with, real with. I would, like on Tuesday nights, we used to have our student nights. I would never miss one. And it was on the other side of London, and I would never miss anything. I loved it, and I found my community there, my constant there, and since then it's just been something I've always been quite passionate about, is just trying to help create that for other people. A place where they could just come, whatever you've done on a Saturday night, you should feel at home here on a Sunday. And but I think that comes with authentic community. And I think, you know, it is hard walking into a big building with loads of people you haven't met before, but that's why we do these hangouts. That's what we want these small groups to be. That's why we're creating them, to basically be a place where people can be authentic, can be real. And yeah, that's what this generation is looking for. You know, so many studies on Generation Z says that, you know, that they're after authenticity, they're after truth. And I think that's found in real relationship, which unfortunately, like I said yesterday, you know, we're more connected than ever via social media, via the internet. But statistics also show that people are more lonely than ever. Loneliness is at an all-time high, and this was before COVID. And so, you know, we need to get proximate again. We need to get close to each other again. And we need to do whatever it takes to be able to be real with each other, to be able to open up to each other, to be able to say, hey, how are you doing? And to be able to say, actually, I'm not doing too well. And to be like, oh, and then actually being able to engage with that. So I think, you know, like I said a minute ago, it's heartbreaking when you see that alcohol-related deaths are at an all-time high, because people are turning to substances and alcohol for help. And they don't provide help. Alcohol is a depressant. I mean, it does the opposite. But people are looking for these momentary fixes that actually in the long run are so damaging. Whereas sustainable relationships, and more than that, a sustainable relationship with Jesus is the answer. So that's what we're desperate for people to find here, which is why we see ourselves as trying to open as many doors as we can, you know, whether that's Alpha, whether that's Sundays. You know, we want our services here to be perfect for anyone, whether or not they've been to church before. We want them to feel completely at home. And so we're committed to making sure that our Sundays work for people that have never been to church before. Like I said, we've got Alpha, but then we've got other courses. We're doing Bridge the Gap. You know, we've got these guys playing football every week with people that, once again, completely unchurched. You know, this guy who wouldn't call himself a Christian invited me to Bridge the Gap. You know, I'm being invited to events at our own church because someone is belonging before they believe, and that's exactly what it's about. It's about belonging. It's about having that constant. It's about having that home when your house is no longer your home. And yeah, I mean, I found it so helpful, and that's what we want to create here.
Yeah, and I think, like, just going off what you said about loneliness, you know, that's one of our mission points is to breach loneliness, and I wonder, like, how practically we as a church can actually breach loneliness during, I know we're in a pandemic, we all know it. But you can live in a house. I lived in a house with 6 girls, and I was the loneliest I'd ever felt.
Yeah.
Like, everything is on a screen, so like, as much as you're getting to see each other, there's actually you are connected, but you feel almost disconnected in the physical sense.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder, like, what you'd encourage us to do in terms of breaching loneliness during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, we were created for community. Like the in the creation story, there's this sense that everything was good until man was alone, and that's what God said wasn't good.
Yeah.
And then He created, He created Eve, and the sense of that is there's a word that they use there, which is it's called ezer kenegdo, which is basically it means that in this person I can find real authentic community. And it's like, I've created this person for you to do life with. And I think that's the sense that even God recognized that, like, you can't do it alone, that isolation is bad.
Yeah.
And I think that right now what we're facing is basically imprisonment. Like people are in prison.
Yeah.
And I think that before COVID, people were so isolated anyway. They'd use apps or Facebook or Instagram for instant gratification.
Yeah.
And now that's wearing off, and more people are kind of I think people are ready to engage with each other socially, ready to engage in person, but then they're not allowed. And so then they're like, well, what do we do? And I think it's heartbreaking to see the statistics around that. But I like to think that, and also I think people can't, the truth is we can do whatever we can put up posts on social media and invite people to things. But the truth is, the only way that people are going to come and engage with something is through a personal invitation. They need, inviting your friend to come into this community. Like, very few people are going to see a billboard or a banner or a trendy Instagram post and be like, right, I'm going to go to that. I mean, that takes guts, and I wouldn't do it. Like, but if my friend invited me to something, then I'd go with them. That's how I ended up going to church. And I think that kind of culture of invitation is what we need to get going again. I can't wait for us to be able to get that going again, where we're able to invite our friends into this community. And that's what we spoke about at the service, was saying that let's invite our friends here, let's invite our friends to this place.
Yeah.
And I'm so open to if there's anything here, and when I say I'll do anything short of sin to get people in, what I mean is I will remove any barrier that is going to affect your friend coming here and feeling at home, because I honestly believe that there's this verse in Hebrews. It says we have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure, and it's talking about Jesus and the constant, that anchor point. It's firm, it's secure. Security is found in Jesus, but this generation is so insecure. I mean, I'm insecure. I mean, we all have insecurities. I mean, just before this, I was eyeing myself up in the mirror constantly, like, oh, what do I look like? It's true. And I think that, but so many of us have deep insecurities as well. But true security is found in identity, in knowing who you are. And what Jesus says is he loves you for who you are, that he loves you to death, that even if you were the last person on earth, he would take that cross for you. And I think people need to know that. I think our friends need to know that. Our families need to know that there is a God who is proximate, and who loves you to death, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, no matter where you're from. And I think, unfortunately, people don't know that. I think people hear too much about what the church is against and not enough about what the church is for. And therefore, they assume that that's what Jesus is against. And they think that Jesus isn't for them. But I mean, Jesus died for them. And so I think that's when it comes to trying to combat loneliness, I think our biggest advocate, or the biggest thing we could do, is try and introduce people to Jesus. and make everyone feel as welcome as we possibly could in this place. You know, this church, the reason they have all these Anglican buildings everywhere, these Victorian buildings, is because they believe that you need a church on every street corner for that community. And it was called your local parish church. And, you know, that culture might have died out a bit or whatever, but I actually think it's, you know, we want people to see these buildings as a place for them. Everyone who walks past this building should see that as their home, as a place for them, and that's what we want to be again. So that's what we're trying to create, and hopefully get people feeling that again.
Yeah, I like what you said about having like that authentic and real community, and I think we have the potential as a church to be quite an attractional church, and you know, like we've got the fog machines, we've got the loud music, we've got, like, as I said, merch and a plant wall and whatever, but like how do we actually build a community that is genuine, that is authentic, that is real?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really know. I think sometimes there's a sense of just fake it till you make it. And I think we are so good at filtering ourselves on Instagram. And actually Instagram, you know, it's a brilliant platform for so many things, but it's also a very good way of hiding, because you get to just show people what you want them to see. Yeah. It's your highlight reel. And then, you know, I follow this, like, the Bucket List family. And I mean, they're just traveling everywhere. They're all so good looking and tanned, and they're living their best lives. And it's just like, oh my goodness. Like, and I mean, I've just had a baby. It's like, how do you have a baby while you're traveling? Like, that is mental. That's so difficult. But actually what they do is they also do stories where they're just like, actually, no, it is mental. It's so hard. And this is what it's actually like. And I think it's time to get behind the filter. It's time to get behind, you know, that kind of platform and who we want people to see us as. Yeah. And start showing people who we are. And I think that's what it needs. But I think it starts with asking someone. I think, you know, it's quite hard to be forthcoming with who you are. You know, if I just said, hi, I'm Ryan, and this is what I'm going through, and, you know, it's quite fun. But actually, I think more what we can do is invite people to do that and give people permission to be vulnerable, and give people permission to be authentic, and and I think that's on us, and that's what we want to see in Hangouts. You know, like, let's not just be like, how you doing? I'm fine. Good. How you doing? I'm fine. Good. You know, be like, let's create an environment where people can actually say, actually, I'm doing crap. I'm having a really tough time. I haven't seen my family in ages. I have a friend on, and I saw on his Instagram page, he just put up a picture of him and his parents and said, I haven't seen him in a year. And he was just like, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I love that he can share that. Yeah. And I think we need more of that in our day-to-day lives. I think that's what I'm really hoping Hangouts will be like, is that the reason they're called Hangouts is because we want people to do life together, to actually hang out together. Yeah. We want people to be real together, and I just love it to be a place where people feel like they can be open, where they can lay down their burdens, where they can be vulnerable, and where they can say how they're actually feeling and know that they're not going to be judged. Yeah. And I think that's what people need. That's what I need. But also a place where people can be themselves and really let themselves down and not put on a bravado. You know, sometimes you do just need people around who you can be around, where you can wear your joggers and where you can, like, you know, have a curry and play some FIFA. You need people like that as well. And, you know, I'm really hoping that that's what people will find here, and that's what people will find in Hangouts. And I just think it's what we all need, is we need authentic friendships that are off the gram. Yeah. Removing the filters. Yeah.
No, definitely. And just to finish up, so I read somewhere this week that on average, the average person sleeps 48 hours a week. On average, they connect with a church community 10 hours a week. And that leaves 110 hours where they are in some other context. So my final question for you this week is, during the week where we find ourselves the most often, how do we as individuals live out our church community's mission?
Wow, that's good. Firstly, I think I really don't like people spending all their time in church. I think it's such a waste of time. I think when I'm saying community and authenticity, when I say here, I don't mean here, this building.
Yeah.
I mean, I want people to feel at home in this building. You know, we've made it warm. We've got, you know, we're trying to soft furnishings. But I mean, by here, by the church, I mean the community, the people.
Yeah.
And we were talking to some people the other day about, you know, when being involved in the life of the church and sports teams. I cannot bear the thought of someone spending every night of the week here. It's such a waste. You're not meeting anyone. You're not serving anyone. You're not doing anything. Very few people are going to come to this church building in the grand scheme of things. Everyone's out there.
Yeah.
The people who are struggling are out there. So we need to get out there. We need to be proximate to people. We need to, you know, join sports teams, join sports clubs, join a gym, join CrossFit, do yoga, whatever floats your boat. Do some, I don't know what people do anymore. What can you do? But I think it's so important that we go out there into the world and be in the world and get to know people, make some friendships, build some friendships. And like I said, the best way to get people into the life of the church and to introduce people to Jesus is through personal invitation. Now, if you're not out there, you're not going to have anyone to invite.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you need to be intentional with that. And actually, we were talking to some of our potential ordinands, people who are on the process to becoming a vicar, and they were saying, "Oh, but you know, you don't wear a dog collar much. So how do you kind of justify that?" And I think for me, my favorite thing, I used to one of my old vicars, I used to go to the gym with him, and every time, I mean, he's got a great head of hair. He's very very trendy guy. He looks great. And whenever we'd go to the gym together, I'd use every opportunity to tell him that he was a vicar, and they'd be like, "What? He's not a vicar. You're a vicar." He'd be like, "Yeah, I'm a vicar." And he used to find it quite annoying that I'd do that. But now that I'm a vicar, I do try and use every opportunity I can to tell people what my job is, because I think I don't really fit the mold that stereotype, once again, that they're expecting. And I love talking to my hairdresser about how I'm a vicar and what we do here. And when I explain church, I'm like, "Oh yeah, but it's not Nescafe. It's not that. Come on, we got a coffee van.
Yeah.
You know, not rich tea biscuits. We got the best brownies you're ever going to have in your life.
Yeah.
And you know, we got a plant wall." And I think that is something that I think that is something on our church. And I think that the same for anyone, as they're out and about, as they're in their sports teams, as they're in their societies, as they're, you know, joining in their gym, they get to be that representation in the world and share that with people. And I think that's the calling on all of us. That's the Great Commission, is to get out there and meet people. And I think being part of Citizen Church, being part of this thing, is to be out there and represent us to the world, represent Jesus to the world and to your friends, and to all the people of Cardiff, Wales and beyond. And I think that is such a privilege. And I think I love that we've got so many fun, trendy, young people here, because that is, you know, that generation, the 18 to 35-year-olds, they're described as the missing generation, because there's very few of them in church. And so who better to reach them than the 18 to 35-year-olds who are in church? Yeah. They're already breaking statistics. And so I think having them out there engaging in culture, in community, in Cardiff, and inviting them in to this community, I think it will change people's lives. And I think we will see, I think that's how revival happens. Yeah. So, don't spend all your time in church, please. But definitely get out there, join some stuff, and then bring people in. Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much, Ryan. Thanks. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. If you want to come along to one of our services, then the link will be in the description, and you can find us online, citizenchurch.org.uk, and you can book a ticket to join us on a Tuesday evening for our live recordings, or join us online, watch online with us on this YouTube channel. You can just subscribe here,
and it will send you a notification when we go live. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us. See you again soon.